My name is Bonnie Rayner, and I am delighted to be back profiling more of the highest profile female athletes WA and Australia has ever seen. Terms like trailblazer and pioneer, they're not words that are thrown around very easily, and rightly so. They are entirely commanded by the very best of the best, those with unmatched influence, records, and presence. Perhaps almost a bit like Daisy Pearce in the female footy world. What an absolute privilege it is to welcome you to the podcast today, Daisy.
Hey, Bonnie, thanks for having me on. Love
No,
the concept.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fantastic. We're so lucky to HAF and Sport FM for championing it. Now, we will get straight into it because what time we've got is not enough to scratch the surface of your accolades and achievements. You have seen it all. A player, a broadcaster, an assistant in the men's competition, and currently as a senior coach in the AFLW, plus, of course, the all-important title of twin mum too, if you don't mind. Professionally, what would you say has been your favourite role so far in football and why?
It's hard to go past playing. I mean, I feel so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had in the game, but yeah, where I first fell in love with it was kicking the ball around in the backyard and dreaming of playing on a big stage, and for so long that wasn't a possibility. So to have had that opportunity, and nothing compares to running out there with 21 other committed athletes and going to work for 2 hours and hoping all of it gets you a result and you can celebrate at the end of the day. I think that feeling is one that's pretty hard to replace, and it's finite as well. Like, you can't play forever, so really savored every moment that I got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, captaining the powerhouse Melbourne Demons from their inauguration until the end of season 7, minus only 2019 with pregnancy, finishing with a flag in your final game, outside of the obvious with the premiership. What are your favourite memories from your playing days?
Oh, I think just the relationships you form. I think the beauty and the reason why we were able to succeed with that premiership was just having loyal, hardworking, like-minded people sort of all pushing in the right direction, in the same direction. When you get that and you look around and players, staff, coaches are sort of dreaming of what you dream of and working just as hard and all in on what you're trying to achieve. That feeling is so special, and the relationships you get when you are in that mode is they're pretty unique. So yeah, just some of the friendships that I've formed over the journey, not just players but my coaches. They see you go through everything from breakups to pregnancies to birth of your children, wins and losses, all the things that happen on field. It's pretty special and a unique relationship you form. But I think, the premiership's right up there in terms of memories. But I think some of the big ones that come to mind as well are after I had my children, just being able to share some of this journey with them. Like, I remember playing my first game back after I had Roy and Sylvie, having gone through feeling like I never know if I will get back out there, and to get out there and go into competitor mode and then come off the field and see your 2 little 1-year-old babies there that are on the journey. That was a pretty special moment as well.
Yeah, that. So you mentioned your dynamic duo there, Roy and Sylvie. They arrived in February of 2019. I understand that by April you were back at your playing weight. You ran a personal best in the 2K time trial in your first pre-season back. And with 694 days in between games, it played like you had not missed a beat. Physically and mentally, how did you do that?
Yeah. Well, I think mentally and emotionally was a big challenge. Physically, I feel like
Flying.
I was lucky that my body did whatever I asked it to do. The time spent in the gym and all the science that goes into recovering from a physical point of view. The female body's amazing, what it can endure, and I've had the beauty of being able to see that with one of our athletes in recent times with Dana Hooker. So yeah, I think the physical, as big as that seemed, that was the easy bit. The hardest bit was getting yourself in the door and getting to the gym, whether that be from a lack of sleep, the logistics involved in carting babies around and timing everything to a T when you're breastfeeding and expressing and all of that kind of thing. And then just the support that it demanded, and some of the emotional toll of relying on so many people making sacrifices and at times feeling like it's a selfish endeavor, and your family and support system and the babies themselves are sort of getting dragged along for the ride. So that was a challenge, I think, to sort of reconcile that in my own head and know that for all the sacrifices people were making, there was plenty coming back the other way, and an experience that was going to make their lives better as well. So that was a big one. I think for me too, and I'd say for a lot of athletes, like it comes with a lot of perfectionistic tendencies. So early in the piece, I think I struggled with accepting that my best was good enough, and I'd sort of had to go through being highly structured and measuring food and timing training and doing it in the right order on the right days with the exact amount of rest that was optimal, to just being able to kind of leave that aside and do whatever I could on whatever day that I could, and try and just mount work, accumulate work, and get through the time where it was quite chaotic and messy and unstructured, and hang in there enough to get to the other side to where things settled a bit and I got in a bit more of a routine and was able to get it back to being a bit more like an athlete life. But early days I was living off coffee and muesli bars, and definitely not ticking a lot of the boxes of what the sports scientists were telling me to do, but a bit of grit and mental resilience that seems to increase when you become a mum. I think that was in my favour.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's hard enough, I imagine, with one child, let alone two at the same time. You're in the peak of your powers, you're leading a football club, and you're fast becoming the face of female footy. Was it a difficult decision to start your beautiful family when you did?
I think it's always something that as female athletes you sort of have to consider. I always wanted to be a mum. I was lucky enough my mum and stepdad had my younger brother and sister when I was 11 and then 13. Had grown up with babies in the house, and just, always dreamed of being a mum. Thinking about that being one of my dreams, and then being 2 years into another dream I'd had, which was to play footy at the highest level, and feeling like it wasn't clear cut that those two things were going to go hand in hand. But I think more and more we're seeing great examples of that they can. You don't have to make that choice, and it was such an awesome experience to be able to combine the two that, I'm glad that I did it. But I think it's something that a lot of people weigh up. I remember a little bit of guilt and, uncertainty and fear early days about what it might mean for my playing career, especially when I found out it was twins, and, contemplating some of the physical changes that I was going to go through. And there's so much unpredictability with pregnancy and birth as well that I knew I needed a bit of luck on my side. But underneath all that, I was just still me. I was still a competitor who, really wanted to get back out there. So it was, in the end, such a great outlet. And I think early on in my career, I'd put so much pressure on myself to continually improve and set a standard and all these things that, came with a bit of responsibility and pressure. Whereas post kids, I just genuinely enjoyed being out there and had a newfound perspective and gratitude for the opportunity I had, and sort of shifted my approach to how I could lead. And in the end, it was so much more enjoyable. And I think having the kids forced that. So, it's proof that you can do both. And for all the challenges that come with it, I think it sort of becomes a lot of people's superpower to have that perspective and the grit that you sort of grow with it.
Yeah, it does help people go to another level. We have seen that before. Now, leading into what would eventually be your final season, winning a flag in your very last game, did you know that season was going to be your last? Was it sort of the goal just to get back, or were you hoping it would be for longer, or was the premiership just the cherry on top and helped you call time?
Yeah, well, post kids, I sort of just kept doing one more seasons. I think I did 4 one mores in terms of contracts after I had Roy and Sylvie. And some of that was just, knowing that it wasn't just deciding for me what I wanted to do. It was a bigger decision than that once you've got kids and a family. But no, heading into that last season, I just was still like wanting to improve and be the best that I could be and play for as long as I, had that fire burning in the belly to do it. So definitely didn't go into the season thinking this is it and my last chance. Even, right up until winning the grand final, a lot of people sort of asked me, oh, well, you can retire happy now, assuming that that's what I was waiting for. But I think winning it and the stage that the team was at, and it actually made it harder to retire. And it made me consider going again because I just wanted to keep that feeling going. So it took me a little bit of time, probably.
The January, wasn't it?
Yeah, a couple of months later. And ultimately the decision came down to a couple of things. Knowing that the sacrifice that it takes that I've spoken about and the flow-on effects that has on many of my support people around me and the kids, I sort of could justify it while I was chasing something that I had always aspired to want to achieve, which was the flag. But once we had that, I felt like it was a little bit harder to justify. And then secondly, I'd always had this, undeniable feeling of just wanting to get better, wanting to achieve more, and this, just burning feeling every off season. And I think the fulfillment and a bit of satisfaction that came with winning the grand final maybe dampened that for me a little bit. And I, whilst I still could imagine myself doing it and getting to the line, I didn't want to get halfway through and not have that and sort of end my career without that motivation of absolutely going after getting better every day. Yeah. And I also could feel that I was going to be influential on the rest of the team. And I remember Kate Hoare getting up at our best and fairest the year we won the grand final, and she'd just won the best and fairest that year. And I was sitting there just glowing in the feeling of, I can't believe we did it. And she got up on stage and she said, let's do this again. She just had this tone in her voice that was we need to get better. I want to do this again. And I just suddenly sat there and went, oh, they don't need me around, feeling fulfilled and basking in this. And it was sort of a moment of realizing it was time to step aside and hand it over to this hungry new captain who was going to take this team forward. So, yeah, it was a couple of things, but it took me a while, and I had moments of regretting it and questioning it, and it probably took me 6 months to let it really sink in and go, all right, next chapter, rather than what have I done? I miss it so much. And I've only just been able to go. I went to my first Melbourne past players function the other day because I was not identifying as a past player up until that point. So it's been 3 years of denial, but I'm there.
A big milestone. Well, I can't relate, but I imagine with 3 All-Australians, 3 best and fairests, 4 AFLPA best captains, 10 VWFL and VFLW flags, plus an AFLW flag, you pretty much ticked it all off. So it's no surprise that slight flicker started to dim a little bit. Now, so much more to go through, and that and plenty more coming up on At the Top of Her Game. You're listening to At the Top of Her Game. We're joined by female football's absolute finest, Daisy Pearce. Daisy, it wasn't just your impact with ball in hand, but the way that you see the game. You're always 3 steps ahead. You're able to break through any opposition's game plan and structure. Did you know that after playing you wanted to segue into the media and then a coaching role, or did you always sort of have that, or how did that come about?
I think I've always loved the game and loved the strategy of the game. As long as I can remember, I never watched and cheered for my team's score to go up, or I never watched a fan, if that makes sense. I was always sort of studying and questioning, and would sit there on the couch with my dad. Sometimes we'd turn the volume off and commentate. So it's just sort of, I think, the way I've always loved the game is the tactical and thinking side of it. The media came about. I was lucky to be able to do that alongside my playing career, and I think it sort of helped in many ways because you're constantly watching the game on a deeper level and studying teams and game styles, and just is a great way to learn. So I think they sort of sat nicely together, and I was grateful to be able to juggle both. I never sort of, aside from that story of sitting on the couch with my dad with the volume turned down, like, I just think because we didn't see it. I'm sure you were the same. Like, I didn't see women doing that when I was falling in love with the game, and so I never really set out to do it. I mean, I studied midwifery, which isn't necessarily a stepping stone into a media career, but it just came about as opportunities were increasing for women in the game, and I would have done anything to call footy my job. Like, I just sort of still pinch myself that this is where we're at, that all those opportunities are available to us. So I think it just came about because I loved the game. If someone was going to pay me to sit in a box and talk about it, I was going to do everything I could to jump at it, even those parts of the media and that TV side of things didn't come naturally to me. It was such a cool opportunity. And then the coaching, that was something definitely, I guess, because I'd always had leadership roles in the teams that I'd played in, and part of my leadership style being really enjoying teaching and helping others. I think that sort of helped spark the interest in coaching. Being in women's footy through the VFLW days, it was so under-resourced that we had one volunteer coach who was it for the first and reserve side a lot of the time. So if you loved footy and were passionate about it and wanted to win, you almost became a pseudo assistant coach, just because that's how local footy clubs worked, and especially women's footy clubs worked back then. So I'd never been just a player. I sort of was always in the back pocket of my coaches, wondering what our strategy was going to be and who I could help coach to get us there. So there was that. And then I think also the year I had off pregnant, I wanted to help the team and contribute in other ways. So I got a bit more of a behind the scenes look at how the coaching team operates at a more elite level. So that definitely made me think, I think this is something that when I can no longer play, that might be able to stoke the passion, because the media was great and I loved it, and I felt so privileged to do that as a job, like I said. But what I missed was belonging to a team and chasing, winning something. It's sort of, that was the bit that coaching could offer that you don't quite get in the media.
Last couple, because we do have to let you go, but am I right in thinking that when you took up the assistant role alongside Chris Scott at the Cats in the men's competition, you turned down the AFLW Essendon head coaching job? And can you talk us through that decision and then your eventual move to actually take up the top job in the West?
Yeah, the Essendon one had come a few years prior, in the back end of my playing career, when Essendon first got a licence. I interviewed for it and didn't so much turn it down. I'm pretty sure Natalie Wood won the job in her own right, but I knew Josh Marnie, who was involved. He'd been working at Melbourne, and he was then the footy manager, helping to set up Essendon's first women's team. So I interviewed for the job, open to the idea of one-day coaching, and more just for the experience, again, just to go through that process, and taught me a bit about myself and helped me sort of check some of the ideas that I'd formed, and, make you realize what you got to work on and what there is to consider. So it was a great process to go through, and I was grateful for the opportunity from Essendon, but it came at a time where I, in the end, decided to keep playing. I wasn't quite ready to retire. It was separate to the Geelong decision. That one came about, as I did approach finishing up my career. I'd formed some good relationships and had some mentors at Geelong just through the networks you form, which are one of the great things of the AFL industry, I reckon. But working in the media, I'd gotten to know a few of the leaders and good footy people down at Geelong, like Steve Hocking and Simon Lloyd. Getting to know them, and then coming to the end of my career, they sort of approached me with the idea of coming down and turning my head to coaching with them. So it was such a great opportunity. They're an amazing footy club, incredible people and mentors of mine that have, in a short period of time, I was only there for 11 months as it turned out, but yeah, the impact that they had on me, my belief in myself and my coaching has been huge.
Well, the belief in yourself is a perfect segue to a final question. The Eagles as a club had faced a lot of scrutiny for its handling of its AFLW program, not taking it seriously. Then in comes Daisy. You smashed the record for most wins in a season before the halfway point of your first season in charge last year. You are certainly living up to the hype that comes with being basically the face of female football. But have you felt the pressure that comes with the enormity of your presence and influence on not only the competition, but obviously this group?
Yeah, I'd be lying to say if I didn't at times, but I feel like that pressure is a privilege. Like all of that pressure comes because of opportunity and people believing I can. So, I sort of have moments of feeling a bit overwhelmed by it or bogged down in it. And I only have to remind myself that the alternative is to not have this opportunity or to not be doing what I'm doing. So I think that's pretty reassuring. And then the other thing is that I'm not doing it alone. I've got so many great supports around me, be it at the club. So you described the journey that this team's been on, and from the outside looking in, it's had its challenges, but there's some incredibly passionate and hardworking people who have been going at it behind the scenes for a long time. People like Jan Cooper, who sit on West Coast's board now, Michelle Cowan, Don Pike's come in as CEO, Andrew McWalter as our new men's coach, and then my coaching team as well, who have coached footy for a long time, who I lean into. Martine Pearman, who's been in WA footy for a long time and knows the landscape really well, and is a great support for me. Rowan McHugh, who's been at the club for a while, Baker Denneman. So I'm so well supported that I don't feel like I'm doing it on my own. So that's a helpful thing and something that you got to constantly lean into. So yeah, things are turning, and I feel like our program's really starting to make grounds on some of the things that's going to help us continue to be a competitive team. Our group has always worked really hard culturally to be a connected team. They're an amazing group of young women. So whilst we weren't getting results prior to last season, and we've still got a lot of work to do, I felt like there were some really good foundations that I could come in and help leverage off.
Absolutely. And can you leave us on what your highlight has been so far, whether it's your 1-point thriller over the Tigers in your first game or the 2 awesome come from behind victories earlier this season, the round of applause you got trying to come out of the coach's box against Port Adelaide in round 4. What's been your highlight, and how soon can you realistically get this team to the ultimate?
Oh, lots of highlights. Some of them aren't so obvious, but like that St Kilda win was pretty special. I think it said a lot about the character of our team. And yeah, just to see their growing belief and understanding of what we can achieve, I think was pretty cool. So that was a pretty special one. But there's other little moments as well where, a player comes up to you and thanks you for helping them with something off field, or I don't know, little moments like that where you just go far out. Winning is just a bonus. We get this opportunity to help shape the lives of these young people, and it feels like full circle because it makes me think of all the people that helped 18-year-old me find my way. Yeah, so there's so many moments like that are hard to go into the details on, but they mean almost as much to you as a coach as the wins do. But yeah, that St Kilda win was a pretty special one and felt like a bit of a turning point. We're so aware we've got heaps of work to do, but the people that are around now to do that work and their belief in where we can get's just growing all the time. So gives you energy to get back to work and go after it again for another couple of weeks.
Yeah, rightly so, and get back to work. We better let you. But the iconic photo post-match St Kilda, I hope one day you frame that of you celebrating with your players. It just shows what you mean to them, and it is the most visual example of the influence you are having, not only on that playing group, but also for females in footy across all roles, media, playing. So thank you for all your work, and thank you so much for your time today on At the Top of Her Game.
Thanks for your kind words, Bonnie, and thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the chat.
thank you. You've been listening to another episode of At the Top of Her Game. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.